Welcome back, guys. I just wanted to pause and see how long it would take you to wait for the crack. Go ahead. Go ahead and crack that beer. Welcome to No Puns Allowed.
Your facial expressions, your enthusiasm, I couldn't, yes. Podcast, yes, visual, but you were excited. So cheers, by the way.
Yeah, cheers. Cheers to draft week.
Cheers to draft week. This is not a draft podcast. Disclaimer. No. We got to make sure.
Just full disclaimer.
We don't care about big boards. I care a little bit because I'm a Jets fan.
I care about big boards. I don't care about mock drafts because I feel like that's...
I kind of care. But I don't want to be the mock
You care because you're
guy.
A Jets fan. I don't care because I'm a Niners fan and it really hasn't meant that much.
Yeah, we get some Niners stuff. But it is draft week. So, what are your... Okay, you don't normally work the draft, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I have in the past, which, by the way, is a very, very stressful event to work if you're alerting it.
Oh God, yes, the notifications for picks 1 through 8,000.
Yeah.
No, but what is the normal draft routine? Are you drink wine?
Yes.
Tequila in your instance?
No, wine, actually. Okay. It's usually wine, and it's me, being sad over, all the Suns that I'm losing to the NFL. Not to say that I can't watch them on Sundays, but it's weird to go from enjoying them on Saturdays in that environment and having them go somewhere where, it could work out, it could not, and the game is different. So it's always kind of an emotional thing for me. I always get all right, there goes my guy, and I just shed a little tear for that. And I always feel that way watching the combine and stuff like that. But the draft day is real. But I love the Hollywood aspect of it, the suits, the reactions with their parents, their kids, the viral videos of them taking their phones from their girlfriends, all of those things are funny and a fun aspect of it, but the nitty gritty of who goes where I don't really worry about until after. But some of it I say that and then I watch the draft and I'm that was such a terrible pick. I don't know why they didn't see the potential in this guy. I get very defensive of the guys that I know are good.
Oh, for sure. I'm with you. Now, if you root for a bad NFL team like I do,
yes.
New York Jets, the draft is our Super Bowl, right? This is it. This is the best day of the year because this is optimism. As you drink your glass straw that shatters my ears. I've got thoughts on the glass straw. We'll get to those later.
We'll talk about the glass straw eventually.
Yeah, it sounds like something else. The glass, the final.
Yeah, the glass straw. It's legitimately a glass
straw. No, I'm fascinated by this. But so the draft usually for me is a high alcohol consumption night, and you just kind of watch and enjoy. You're right. It's graduation for us.
Yes, that's such a good way of putting it.
It's
bittersweet.
But I am always curious though because we cover college football and there's some players who are just phenomenal. Like Blake Willis though is a really interesting example of a guy who had a ton of buzz, didn't have a very good year, right? Did not have a very good year. Played for a small school, goes to the Senior Bowl, is great, and just works out, and all of a sudden it's he might be the top quarterback drafted. I think it's the cool part of the draft. It's also the part of the science. Trayvon Walker. Here's a dude on Georgia's defense. We were there. Jacoby Dean. I just don't fathom how you wouldn't select this guy. Every game I watched, it was a robot that would just hit the shit out of people. Yeah. Right? You've got all these players, and then someone like that who just emerges throughout this process. 6'4", 275 pounds, ran great, and could be the number one pick. It's what I love about the draft. It's also kind of the part about the draft that is the hardest to follow. Unless you do this, it's kind of like recruiting, Paige. If you try to cover recruiting, and I did this many years ago, covered recruiting from afar, unless you do this shit 365, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Truly.
It's really, really hard to, especially because like you said, a lot of it is they didn't really get seen, and then maybe now they're emerging in a different setting. It's kind of hard when you're not and there's so many players to have eyes on. That's the problem too, is there's so many of them. It's not like other drafts, I feel even where in the NBA there's a certain threshold that after this pick you're not really sure where it could go, and I feel it's easier to evaluate basketball players than it is NFL players. I'm sure someone's going to be so pissed that I said that. But I feel like it's a lot easier to evaluate who's going to be good in the NBA than who's going to be good in the NFL. So it's definitely not a job I envy of the people who do that, and also the ones of recruiting, because that's a whole different can of worms that I don't even want to touch, because it's just absolute chaos currently. But we do enjoy covering people in the draft that we like at the college level. You obviously are known for writing profiles and features on punters. That is your thing. It is your wheelhouse, and I didn't even realize it until I was sending an email about this feature that we did on Matt Ariza. I was sending an email and I was like, Kramer is back writing on punters again, and like it's because it's such a norm for you, and I'm glad that we did it. But I did want to give you sort of the floor to talk about that interview process, sort of what you learned throughout it, and the interesting tidbits that were sort of in that piece that maybe we haven't heard from him in the draft process.
So it felt amazing to work on a feature together again, because it had been a while. And you're right, it's fitting that it's a punter, because we've done Australian punters, we've done lefty kickers, 80-year-old kickers, whatever. But so, again, it goes to our connection to these players throughout the process. Like Matt Ariza last year was, 86-yard punt, 86 fucking yard punt. Like I knew I was in love. But I think what's most interesting about it, right? So you have a punter here who is a unicorn, who could be like a unique piece for a team that already has a lot. And I think the whole thing that is fascinating to me, beyond the player himself, he's a lefty, he kicks field goals, he does kickoffs, he broke all these records, Paige. But I think the part that's really interesting is, like, what's the value of a kick-ass punter in the league? Like, you punt a lot in the NFL. And you're going to need him to give your defense, like, space and relief. Like San Diego State this year, which we watched a lot of, but they won 12 games. They won 6 games by single digits. This dude was kicking, 70, 80-yard putts in most games and kicking field goals, and they won largely because of him. So the part I'm, like, fascinated by in this, just as, like, a fan of the sport and just talking to people, no one really knows how to quantify what a killer punter will do, like what he's worth. Where do you take somebody like this? And I think in talking to people, sweet spot is the 3rd round. He may go undrafted. Like, it's a rarity to have a position. I don't think he'll go undrafted. Somebody will take him. But it's a rarity to have someone where, like, no one, because the sport is in constant motion, offense, pieces, whatever.
Yes.
No one has a fucking clue exactly where this kid is going to go, including his camp. They just know what they want to be. And I just find that whole part fascinating. Yeah.
The interesting part that stood out to me was, the feedback that he got originally when he was making his decision, because a lot of these guys consult a lot of different people. And the feedback for him was, you should go. Like, you should go this year to the draft. But then when he got to the combine, he was flat out told, like, you're not ready. Yeah. And I don't know if he's not ready. I don't know if the NFL is ready for him yet. He'll start putting sort of a different value on everything that he can do kind of moving forward, I think. But as of right now, the NFL isn't necessarily, the game itself is not in a position where they need a punter to take a punter in the draft. You know what I mean? It's just not one of those things. But I thought it was fascinating that the feedback he got was that, and then he gets there and he's interviewing and an NFL team's like, you're not ready. And it's like, I wonder if part of that was to get his reaction to it.
For sure.
And obviously he did amazing at the combine when that interview happened. So, I think that stuff is just so fascinating.
The science behind this is he was beating the shit out of footballs over returners' heads. There were some games where teams would have 2 returners, like a short one and like oh my God, I can't believe he kicked it here. So the part of this that I think is really cool too, and Ariza is fun about, like, he knows that those kicks are dangerous. He talked about kicking it to Tyreek Hill. If you kick the ball 70 yards in the air to Tyreek Hill, he probably has 25, 30 yards to catch ahead of steam.
Yes.
But he also was not to say, like, okay, like, I'll conform to the NFL and kick it really high. But then he's like, ... but I'm still going to kick the shit out of footballs. Like, you best believe. So I do think there's like a style clash here of what made him so great in college and how his game evolved. I'm a little disappointed, quite honestly, that, like, teams aren't going to try him as a field goal kicker to start. A little surprised, too. Like, he was not a world-class field goal kicker. He was good. He was an elite kickoff guy, which he'll probably do an elite punter. But the value of that in, like, 3 positions with one player, like, I would think that would be a commodity. And it doesn't seem like that. The NFL's, like, too scared of it. Like, the NFL's like, we're going to do our thing.
You know the NFL is not big on utility players like baseball is, but
no.
It's definitely a good read. So if you haven't had the chance, please go to Bleacher Report, our shameless plug, and look the Matt Ariza feature that Kramer wrote this past week. It was great.
Thank you.
Another draft thing that I saw circulating on the internet today was the Rams have a draft house that they got. So they couldn't just do it from McVay's house or something, because it a la Cliff Kingsbury, but they got this house. It's massive. It's like decked out Rams, but they also, the like other plug on this is that the like realtor company that helped them find this house is the cast of Selling Sunset. I don't know if you've heard of this Netflix show.
No.
It's basically like the most beautiful women you've ever seen selling houses in like Hollywood in LA. And it's also a reality show. There's a lot of drama and things like that on it. There's definitely more to it. But it's incredibly funny that like this is the play that we're going with. There's like the picture of like the Rams staff and like the girls from Selling Sunset. I'm like, you gotta, I guess I've been watching Winning Time on HBO Max, which is the documentary about not the documentary. It's a show on the Showtime Lakers.
Jerry West not happy.
Yeah, Jerry was very not happy, which I sort of understand.
Me too.
But it's funny to like see the like Hollywood set, like hard Hollywood sell of the Rams. Like, you just won a Super Bowl. It's fine. Like, you don't need to do this, but okay, sure, why not?
Of course it's going to be like sponsored. I have, by the way, been watching some Real Housewives. It's been on in my house. Not like I'm not seeking this out.
Wait, which one?
What's the one with Teresa? What is that? Los Angeles?
New Jersey?
Oh, it is New Jersey. That's right. Yeah, it's a bunch of like Italians like me.
Italians.
So this show stresses me the fuck out, okay? Like she stresses me out, okay?
Okay.
So I'm writing, and I've been doing a lot more writing at night lately. And this is on, and like normally I can write through pretty much anything. Like that's me. Yeah. I can work well with distractions. I can't do it with this show. Like, everybody's so mean, and I can't look at... It is Teresa now, right? Like, with the...
Yes.
Like, okay. Like, I don't know what has happened to her face, right? A lot. But this show makes me very uncomfortable. Like, I have to watch it through my hands.
You hate confrontation.
I hate it.
And so I can't imagine you trying to... Also, like, I'm imagining, like, on TikTok, there's always these... like wives that videotape their husbands where it's like, I can't believe you watch this crap, and they're like standing watching the Kardashians
that's what I do.
Or like The Bachelor.
Yep.
And I imagine you are that guy. But those shows very much because you get invested and then you start like picking teams. That's why I said like college football, if you like want your significant other who watches The Real Housewives to be in on a sport, college football is the one to do it, because they kind of bicker like all of the like head coaches and like do passive aggressive things and say catty things to each other and like are all vying for attention because like that's how you get recruits. It's the best. Like, that's just the gateway to getting people into college football would be The Real Housewives, and I would say
I agree. By the way, Tiki Barber on the show, like,
yeah,
I was like,
I
Tiki,
about that.
I was like, oh man. And then I got sad for him. I'm like, oh no, this is not... Tiki's like nice and like seems like very calm. Like, no, Tiki, get out of here. And I was like asking my wife, I'm like, she's like, oh, he seems really nice, like kind of out of place on this show with all like. So I am that person though you mentioned where I'm like, oh my god, this is so negative. Like, you got to turn this off. And then I'm like watching it while typing, like, what's going to happen next? Who's going to call who a motherfucker? Because somebody. Like, it has not met its daily quota of somebody getting called a motherfucker or threatening to fight.
I'm going to need you to watch the new season of Beverly Hills, because I think that's a good one.
All right.
It's probably one of the best. They are going to revamp the New York one. That used to be my favorite, but it's definitely entertaining. And I also would, like, give anything I know they used to have a show called Wags on E, but like
Yes.
I would give anything for like a Real Housewives of college football during the season, just to like follow them around and have them like lunch together, like the wives before the games and things like that. Like I would give anything to like see Miss Terry sit at lunch with Kirby's wife, like before the Georgia game. Like I would give anything to see the like fakeness of all that. Not to, I mean, Miss Terry would obviously be genuine because she's an angel sent from heaven.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, I feel like the Real Housewives of college football would be an excellent show.
I think it is an amazing idea. The sport, that kind of controversy. It's like what F1 has done, honestly, with Netflix, which has helped. I think college football would excel there. Now, let's go. Actually, before we go draft, let's talk some drafty things. Now, our sports teams, you are a 49ers fan.
Yes.
I am a Jets fan. I say that because y'all's best player and one of my favorite college players in the last 10 years, Deebo Samuel. Too. Oh, God, so good. Wants out, we think, or he wants more money, right? And
well, the rumor is that they're willing to give him that money, and it's not about money. And I'm like, okay,
interesting. So he doesn't want to play running back? Like,
I don't know what the situation is. It sounds like there's a lot of different opinions out there. The other part of this is that they haven't, like, yes, he said he requested a trade, but that doesn't mean the 49ers are trading him. Like,
by the way,
if they did, I'd be upset.
There are odds on this. I'm on DraftKings. This is going to be an odds-centric next 15 minutes. But Deebo's next team, God bless gambling, minus 205, San Francisco 49ers, New York Jets plus 450. Then you've got Eagles at plus 1,000, Bears plus 1,600. I think, I mean, you've got the LaFleur connection with him too with the Jets. Like, there's a lot of Jetsy vibes. I would love someone like Deebo on my team. But no one wants to play for the Jets, so I'm not going to hold out hope. But I do. It's like he is a college player that has made it in the NFL, and I mean that because they use him like I would use a player in like the NCAA video game. Like he's sort of a Reggie Bush, like how Reggie Bush could have been used is Deebo, and it works, and he's exciting, and all the wide receivers getting paid. So why the hell not him? So I am curious though, because the way this is being reported, Paige, does feel like something's happening.
Something is not right? Good. Something is not right. And I don't know if even the like Jimmy Garoppolo situation is weird.
Yes.
Like it's all very weird. And we don't really know much, but also like I think that's the way the 49ers like it. So him telling someone that he requested a trade was his way of sort of forcing their hand, I think, to be like, look, I'm serious, I want out. And it has to be pretty bad for that to be the case. I know that it usually takes a lot for a player to get there because I feel like they understand the business and they don't want to seem like a problem child, and especially if they want to go to other teams. It's very fishy and very weird, and it makes me so incredibly nervous that like things are not shifting in the right direction.
I would tend to agree, and for the Jets' sake, I hope so. I hope so. I'm sorry, but if he's going to go anywhere, bring him, please, to me and my shitty football team.
Please.
Deebo, I'm so sorry, but you'll be very rich if you go to the Jets. You're going to be very rich anyways. Okay, we are not going to do draft stuff again.
You keep saying that, but we've talked about the draft.
No, I know. All right, I know. But what we are going to, I do want to talk about is betting the draft. Now, Paige, like a couple of years ago, this is like the level of offerings is pretty wild to me. And I'm not, again, I like these college players. I follow enough. But it's really interesting, the betting markets and the way things change. Mm-hmm. And I always am curious because, for example, I'll use an interesting one. Kayvon Thibodeau, who I think is one of the best players. If you were going to ask me who I'd like the Jets to have at number 4, it would be Kayvon Thibodeau. But in like the last, at the time we filmed this, the last 24, 36 hours, at the number 2 pick, Kayvon Thibodeau on DraftKings and everywhere became the favorite at plus 150. Now it's really close, right? You got Hutchinson at plus 160 if he doesn't go number 1. You've got Trayvon Walker plus 450. So like we talk about like the way odds move for games, like all of a sudden like an injury happens or something happens. Someone puts money on a team who may know something or perceive to know something or a smart opinion. You have this in the draft as well. And it seems like now Kayvon Thibodeau is that guy. why I think it's fascinating. You and I talked about him, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks ago, where his weird comments about Alabama. Like he has not had a great draft. Couple of months.
Yeah.
And yet now it feels like it's coming full circle. But the fact that the betting markets may or may not, like, I don't know how accurate they are. I find it hilarious, though, that they are picking up steam before the draft begins.
I think it's crazy that, like, okay, when you bet on, like, games, there really is no way to guarantee that these things, but think about the people, like, not to say that this is going on, but, like, think about the people that, like, work for teams.
Yes.
Like, you mean to tell me you're not gonna, like, drop, I mean, you obviously need to trust this person a lot, but, like, if I say I was a GM and my significant other was, like, in the other room and I am having a conversation and they happen to put money on, do you think they monitor if, like, significant others of, like, GMs and coaches put money on this stuff? I don't know. I feel like you would
the limits are small normally, right?
But it's
sure.
Money.
Oh, for sure. No. And they're small, but they're mighty. And there's more of these things.
There's definitely a reason for that. But, like, for what
you say, the exact reason, exactly.
There could be a lot of, like, insider trading here in terms of draft. Like, games are really unpredictable and, like, other things that you bet on. But this feels like if you're good, I was saying earlier, like, I think mock drafts are really difficult because I think it's really hard to know out of all the players the top couple, it's kind of easier, but, like,
for sure,
as you get further down, and also the odds are a little bit better further down, like, if you're pretty good at this, you could make some money off of the draft order.
Well, that's the Thibodeau thing, is that exactly it. Does someone know something now that at number 2, like, that's going to happen? Now, okay, I'm just going to throw some things out there that I find interesting. By the way, we talked about Matt Ariza. There is a Matt Ariza prop bet here.
There is?
Well, there's a first special teams player drafted. You have Matt Ariza at plus 125. You have Jordan Stout plus 500. Cade York plus 650. Cameron Dicker is on here, which is a great kicking name. Always and forever.
Dicker.
Cameron
Dicker.
Dicker the kicker.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yes, you could bet on Mr. Irrelevant. You
can bet if it's going to be offensive or defensive?
Yes.
And the odds are the exact same.
Yes. You can bet on top
where's
5. There's a safety, special teams props. College props.
See it. Why do I not? Oh, there it is.
So the total number of SEC players drafted in the first round, over or under 10.5. By the way, minus 35 over. The next highest is Big Ten at 6.5. Just means more. Just saying.
It just means more.
I mean, it is just like, so who's going to draft Kenny Pickett? Panthers plus 150. Saints plus 200. I kind of like the Panthers, by the way, for this. Steelers plus 350. Who's going to draft Malik Willis? It's really the same teams, by the way. So I am just in awe. I don't love any of this. Although I do kind of like Matt Ariza at plus 125 to be the first specialist. Like, that feels like free money.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe we should sprinkle a little.
A little sprinkle?
You know how I feel about sprinkling.
The other guy, again, I could go for days on this, but the other guy, and this is in your wheelhouse, that I think has been fascinating is Jameson Williams. So Jameson Williams, holy shit, is he fucking fast. SEC championship game is one of the craziest things I've ever seen, because Georgia's dudes were, again, a bunch of cyborgs, and he was just flat out outrunning them, outsprinting them, embarrassing them. Blows out his knee in the playoff game, like, it sucked. Yeah. But now, like, again, Jets homered him. His draft spot, over under 14.5. The under is minus 165. Paige, he may be the first wide receiver drafted, and his knee was torn to shreds. A, that's amazing, and B, oh my God, that dude is so fast.
So I think that maybe you and I should come up with, like, a solid couple of bets that we want producer Matt to make into a graphic for us, because now that I'm looking at this, I wasn't going to bet. This is your fault.
I know.
Adam. I wasn't going to bet on the draft, but here we are.
There's so many bets.
So we'll come up with some solid ones and put them in writing so we can see them. Maybe we'll do a a bet if we're on different sides of the coin.
Oh boy, that's never good news for me.
Why? You always win. I've lost.
No, last time no one won, and I was very close to losing. Like, it was bad. Like, it was not good. I'm in on this. I am in awe of all of the fucking props.
I didn't know that you could do this. I knew that there was obviously like things you could bet on in the draft, but wow, this is next level. Shout out DraftKings.
Yeah, this is great. You should, DraftKings, just saying, we're giving you a lot of like...
we are giving you a lot of love here.
Just saying. We've been perusing your wonderful offerings here for a good 10 minutes.
Just saying.
So the draft will be fun. It will be my first date back from Disney World. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that.
I don't know what kind of shape I will be in, but I am excited for the draft.
Yes, we are going to do an episode later in the week to just wait until after the draft to talk about it. So that will come out Friday, hopefully.
Yes.
We will get that out to everyone. But there was some college football-ish news.
Yay.
Today, Lincoln Riley wrote a Players Tribune piece. And it was very generic. I will say there wasn't really much to it. And you guys know that I'm very biased because I love Lincoln Riley and think that he can do no wrong. But he talks about how like the process all went down and how quickly it all went down in terms of taking the USC job. And he said he did have like a team meeting with Oklahoma players so they knew, and he wishes that he could have talked to other players afterwards individually. He said he had talked to some, but he has like some regrets about how it all went down, but he doesn't like specifically say what those regrets are. I think he's just a nice guy and trying to be like, look, this was the right opportunity for my family at this time, but like, this is the nature of it. Like, what else was he supposed to do differently? I don't know. Was there something that you thought that he didn't handle well? Because I mean, recruiting wise, he needed to get there. Like, I don't know. I just didn't see, and maybe I would feel different if I was an Oklahoma fan, but I didn't think it was that like terrible of an exit.
There's no good way to leave a team.
No, especially one that you were like groomed to take over and like all those things.
There's no good way to do this. It sucks for your players. The way it's reported, he has no control over unless he's floating it. So it like, I feel for these coaches. Like, even the Brian Kelly thing, when it went down, it was like, how he handled it, and Brian Kelly's an asshole, this and that. I get it. Lincoln Riley, though, I guess my only thing would be, like, he does not strike me as the LA guy. Like, I am really interested to see how this... Now, he's got a really nice LA house. He seems to be fitting in well.
That we would love to be invited to.
Yes.
Check out the wine cellar.
Just wine cellar and pool, and, but I do wonder... Like, I guess that there's no good way to do that. That didn't rub me the wrong way. He got paid $1 bajillion and is out in LA, and it's great content. Like, I had no issues with that part of it. I think it's cool that he can opine about it in this setting. Like, I mean, that's a neat way for him to acknowledge at least, hey, this kind of sucks. But I do wonder just his personality on a grander level, because he does seem like a pretty normal guy. Like, that is not a normal job. That is not a normal town. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the expectations are going to be crazy, and he's got to be equipped to handle it. And it really is interesting to see how he does that beyond the piece itself. Yeah.
I feel for him because I feel like no matter what happens this year, I mean, I feel like despite anything other than winning a national championship, which I don't think is going to happen, is going to be falling short, and there's going to be criticisms of certain things. But I think he's a good fit for LA. I feel like he's a little swaggy. I mean, he was, sponsored by Oklahoma was a Jordan school. I feel like he was able to recruit guys, and guys like resonated with him. So I don't know. I disagree that he's just not an LA guy. I think he can be an LA guy.
I think, even with access, there's just some breadcrumbs of like access to his program, which was like, not great at Oklahoma, shutting it down when they ask weird questions. Like, it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, because it's just going to be the attention. Oklahoma's a massive school, right? It's not like he was at like Boise State, like doing this thing. Oklahoma's a huge job. And again, it's kind of a compliment to him. Like, I don't necessarily think he's the sunglasses, high profile fit. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's almost like a good thing. Like, he just seems like a pretty down-to-earth dude that is really good at scripting plays and people want to play for. So I am fascinated to see how it translates. I've said this on the pod. I've said this everywhere. We are not going to be, and you said it, we are not going to be able to have a sane opinion about his team this year. Mm-hmm. They're either going to be wonderful or they're going to suck. Mm-hmm. Like, if they win 8 games and there's some good in there, you're going to be like, you can't say, like, hey, that's a nice first step.
First year.
Like,
no.
We won't be able to do that, right? Like,
there are so many places where that would be acceptable, and USC is not one of them.
Yeah, which stinks. And I just wonder, not just him, what the weight of that is going to be.
Yeah.
And we'll find out. Oh, I can't wait.
I am so excited. After college basketball, I needed like a little bit of time, but now I'm like, okay, I'm ready for college football to be here because there's so many things to talk about. There's so many new head coaches. There's so much going on that I cannot wait. Mass chaos.
Now let's talk about your baseball team.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. I saw this picture last night.
Yes.
All right. Let me take a step back. The empty stadium shots bother me from time to time because there's got to be a disclaimer here. We do this like with Miami football. We've done it with a lot of teams where it's like empty stadium. Hey, it's 40 minutes before a game and the stadium's empty. Well, no shit.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear a single thing you just said. Did you hear the music on my computer just went off?
No.
That was
Were you panicking?
I don't know if that was like, if you could hear it on my
I did not hear a thing.
That was hilarious. I'm so sorry to interrupt your rant, but my face was like, where's that coming from? I like looked everywhere and it just like opened on my computer.
No, the only thing I have heard a handful of times is your fucking glass straw, which again, I'll address that at a later time.
We will talk about my glass straw, but sorry to interrupt. Okay,
all right. So sometimes we play up the empty stadiums. College football, like 40 minutes before a game, you take a picture of a college stadium. Of course, it's going to be empty. People are drinking in the parking lot. Okay, Paige. There was an ump. The game is going on. Okay, I studied this A's picture. Mm-hmm. The ump is there. There are people in their positions. The game has started. It was 3,700 people. Mm-hmm. What the fuck? Like, yeah. I know that attendance is an issue, but like this is your baseball team too, so I want to be sensitive about this. Mm. But that can't last, right? Like, what's the end game
It's
here?
Been this way for a really long time. I think people are forgetting that this has been an issue for a very long time. I think the problem that I had with all of these comments about it is that it's like people are blaming the fans. Like, oh, they're not showing up. It's like, well, okay, would you show up for your team if, first of all, it's a weekday. They started on the road. They started the season on the road. They're back now, but 10 games on the road to start the season. Awesome for the A's. Great. Thanks, MLB.
And they did okay, by the way. They're not playing terrible.
They're not terrible. Here's the
thing. No.
But when you have promised a new stadium over and over and over again, and all we've heard is that it's the city's fault, that this isn't happening, and they're being sued. Owners sold off all of our like decent players, all of our best players, okay, just to put money in their own pockets, and it's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. And only that, ticket prices. I gotta tell you, my stepdad was a like all access, which is like sort of like our season ticket type deal, like package you can get. The prices are raised. It's what you get out of this stuff is not the same as it used to be. Things have changed. You also have to understand this is the Bay Area where like mask mandates and like being able to go to these things and getting out and going and doing things is still relatively new here. So there's all these factors that factor into it, but the main point of this is an ownership problem and has been for a while. I don't think that, and I said this when the Howard Terminal, which is like the place that they want to build the new stadium, that got approved. The plans for that got approved. I don't want a new ballpark anywhere but where the A's are. Howard Terminal's fine, whatever. It's going to be a smaller, more intimate ballpark. That was the promise. But sure. At this point, ownership has such a bad rap. Like, you're not even going to find players that want to come here. And it was so sad to watch Matt Olson and Matt Chapman post things about being in Oakland. And Matt Chapman specifically was like, the city of Oakland deserves a new ballpark. And I think that those guys were willing to like stay and be a part of that, knowing what they could do. But it wasn't going to put money in the pockets of the owners. And so they're basically giving a big FU and sold them off when they could. And this happens all the time. Like, we're used to this. There's a whole movie dedicated to the fact that this happens and has happened. And they have great players and they just ship them off because they're not willing to pay them. And at what point do you say, like, even the MLB, like, at what point do you say, like, this is not a good situation for this team?
I think you're there. Like, that was where I was last night. And, like, you're right. It's not new. If I was a fan there, it'd be exhausting because it's the narrative. And yet there's some truth to the narrative that, like Olsen is a phenomenal player. By the way, the amazing thing in all this is that y'all continue to, like, make the playoffs or be competitive, which is pretty amazing.
Because the other part of this is any player that's played in Oakland will not say that the fans are terrible. Like, that will never be a thing. It's like, the facilities suck. We're obviously, want things to change. But no one's ever like, oh, wow, the A's fans aren't coming out, because the ones that do show up are super loyal. And also, I would like to say to anyone on Twitter coming for A's fans and saying they're not loyal, come over to the Bay and say it to their face and see what happens. Because legitimately, it's so annoying. It's like, you know nothing about it. All you hear is the same narrative, like, oh, the A's suck. They sold off all their players and fans aren't coming because of this. And fans are fair weather and only are there when they have the good players. No. By the way, I'm actually might be going to the A's game tomorrow. So, like,
maybe you'll fight a hater.
What?
Maybe you'll fight a hater. Like,
right?
Come say it to my face.
Come say it to my face. But, I mean, tell A's fans that they're not loyal and they will go off. So, I mean, I'm sitting here literally in front of a whole slew of A's bobbleheads, and guess where you get those? At A's games. There are people going. I've been going my whole life. Oh, God. So, I don't...
A's bobblehead collection.
Yeah, we're using that's how desperate A's fans are at this point to be like, can you guys leave us? Also, way to kick us while we're down. You guys know that we sold off everybody in our morning. Like, come on.
What I think would be the alternative. Let's go down the rabbit hole, though. Let's say they get sold and they move to Vegas, right? Yep. Which seems like a certainty.
They're not selling them. They're gonna move them. I don't think that they will sell the A's. I think they will move them. Although they should be sold. I hope Mr. Gap gets rid of our team.
Sorry. Just love now I can't stop staring at the A's bobbleheads in the background, just like tormenting me. But Vegas, you could have a Vegas team. Like, yeah, how many A's in the back of you are still on the team, by the way?
I don't think there's anyone that's still on the team, but like Matt Olson and Matt Chapman are down here. Sean Manaea, Josh Donaldson.
Oh, geez.
We got Mark Ellis. That's my favorite Oakland A's player ever because he actually was on the A's for 10 years, which is probably, I think, the longest that anyone out. I think after the like back-to-back championship team, I think that's the longest someone has ever played for the A's. So shout out Mark Ellis. I have signed baseball from one of his last games as an Oakland A. Yeah, we've got Dennis Eckersley. He does not play for the A's anymore.
No, but that's a great bobblehead.
Yeah, these Catfish Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
We got Reggie Jackson, Vita Blue. We've got all of them. So we've got a good collection back here. But these are also all things that you get when you go to, not all of them, but most of them are what you get when you go to games. So, look, there are A's fans. Please don't blame them. They're already mad enough and sad enough, clearly. If they do move to Vegas, I don't know that I can root for a Vegas team.
Why?
Because it's not like I was a Raider fan and I could, like, I don't know. That's just, it seems weird.
Would you adopt a California team?
Oh, God, no. Oh. Over my dead body would I be a Giants fan.
How about some Mets? No, don't do that.
I was like, why don't I go somewhere where it's not as sad? You know?
No, but now we got Uncle Steve and we got some money. Like, it's the opposite. Like, y'all can't, like, buy players. We just buy everybody and still lose. Like, it's the opposite reaction of things. Well,
I don't know. I hope it gets figured out, and I feel bad for the players that are on the team. I will say I do have a family friend that plays for them, and I am going to go and support him and support the team because I still love the Coliseum. I've said this before, it's my shithole. And I grew up going to games there, and I will stand by any A's fan if anyone wants to say that we're not loyal, because how do you stick with your team after this is constantly the case?
I would agree.
Never ending cycle. But I would much rather them leave and go somewhere else, because look, and don't get me wrong, I would love for them to stay in Oakland and bolster the economy here and create jobs and things like that. But I just think that it's like unfair for the product itself. It's unfair to the players that play for this team to have them stay here and be treated the way that they're being treated. I don't know.
Well, Godspeed with your A's. On to happier conversations with before we talk Disney and your glass straw, we have to rank our number 9 team.
Oh, yeah.
Our number 9 team. So, let me see. Oh, you've got this amazing spreadsheet updated. So my top 8 up until this point: Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas A&M, Utah, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Michigan. There is a lot of synergy here. We have used all the same teams. I believe that's going to change this week. You had Alabama, of course, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Texas A&M, Utah, and then you as well, Notre Dame, Michigan. So the last 2 weeks, we are in lockstep. However, ... I believe that changes here. You have a very interesting team, now that I look. And speaking of haters, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some serious hate from this. And the hint I will give is that they're back.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding. I picked Texas, and here's why. Because I started looking at some numbers.
Oh boy.
And the football power index came out, and I gave it a little peek. And now they have a really solid quarterback. Some would say once in a generation quarterback in Quinn Ewers. So,
Can we talk about that power index real quick?
No, don't bring it up.
Oh my God. I mean, who else was on there? Pitt and Auburn?
Okay, but to be fair, look at what we've picked. And this came out, last week? Okay, let me just say, the power index is Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia.
All good.
Clemson.
Fine.
Notre Dame.
Okay.
Then Texas and Michigan.
Yes.
Where's Texas A&M on this list?
Hold on. And then Oklahoma. Okay. And then Pitt.
Okay, to be fair, that's not factoring in. Oklahoma's not factoring in. They have a new coach and things like that. This is just by the numbers.
Well, and then Auburn. So look, I'm going to separate the Texas argument from the FBI.
Yes, you can. Because in my opinion, getting a once-in-a-generation quarterback recruit, having Steve Sarkisian already be in a lowest of low points in terms of first year. We thought it was going to be great, but it hasn't been. They're going to take an L to Alabama early, but we'll be able to gauge sort of how good they are early on. And that's going to be a quality loss, all right? We already know. But we're going to be able to gauge how good they are in their starting point from that Alabama game.
Okay, I don't hate Texas. In fact, I love the Sark hire. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be really interesting. Got another year of Bijan. Last year of Bijan. You've got some offensive players. They actually were killing it in the transfer portal. We like to shit on Texas. They should be very good. I just need to see more of Quinn Ewers. I need to see him. The mullet is amazing.
I was going to say, you can't miss him with the mullet.
the year at Ohio State, I think, is going to help, too. I just want to see more. Their offensive line class, which they paid $1 bazillion for this year, was amazing. There's a lot to like.
There's a lot to like.
Shitting on Texas aside, which we love to do.
We do love to do.
I don't hate this. I'm just not quite there.
It's a reach. I'm not saying it's not a reach, but I also feel like it's a fair assessment based on the ceiling. I'm very much betting on them reaching their full potential.
They better get their shit together, by the way, before they go to the SEC, because otherwise it's going to be...
It's going to be miserable.
It's going to be really bad. I will stay in the Big 12. Oklahoma State. This team was really good last year. Really good. And Spencer Sanders is an interesting guy. Bowl game against Notre Dame, second half, holy crap, right?
Yeah.
So they've got some They've got some really good players. They lose Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator. That's a huge loss. You can't that's massive to Ohio State. So the defense is gonna take a step back. Mike Gundy has been through like the roller coaster. We talked about Dabo, of a guy that I have mixed feelings about. Like Gundy's the same way. I've interviewed Gundy a lot, and like I've had some of my favorite interviews with Gundy. He's got some unique political views. He's worn some interesting T-shirts. He's said some interesting shit.
I mean,
he's the man. He's 40. Yeah, yep. but like the guy also wins like at a really high rate. So I'm curious to see what the defensive loss is. But I like some of their offensive players.
They have a decent amount of people returning, right?
Yeah, they got a lot coming back. So this team last year was no joke. Like they were no joke. And they were down 28-3 against Notre Dame and came back, and like all of a sudden it looked good. Like that was a great game. So this is where my top 25, full disclosure, starts to get things start to go off the rails.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, like this is where I start to lose confidence in who I'm ranking.
Me too, because I'm like, you know what? I'm betting on these people having the season of the century, really, or like,
for sure.
And for Texas, like, I want them to be good because, again, I hate this so much. Remember how we talked about this? I hate when they're like, oh, when college football is better. When I think it's going to be fun if Texas is actually good.
Like, imagine if USC and Texas are good, like and Miami for that matter. Like all three have really good coaches that I like.
Imagine if Oklahoma doesn't miss a beat either, and those two teams join the SEC and are good. You know what I mean? Like, and add some competition there that sometimes is not there on the lower end.
I don't disagree that these teams, like, you've got three teams. You're covering the coast here, right? Like, and you've got teams that we'd love to see back. Mm-hmm. Miami, Texas, and USC. Like, levels of backness, I think we need to check. Like, we need to keep reasonable.
We need to stop using that people are back because being back means you won a national championship.
Yeah, what was it? Sam Ellinger at the bowl game?
Yeah.
Like after they beat Georgia? Like, we're back. Oh, no. Like, no, Sam. But
nice guy, by the way.
I don't hate it. No, I don't hate the pick. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just really can't wait for college football season now.
I'm with you there. Okay, but last and not least, part of the reason we're pushing our pod a little bit next week is because you're traveling too.
Yes.
You've got stuff to do. I'm going to Disney World with my family on Sunday.
I wore my Mickey shirt for this episode, by the way.
Oh my God. Yeah, so you're decked out in the mouse. So I have learned a lot. I went when I was a kid. I have not been back, obviously, in a long, long time. Paige, this is fucking crazy. Okay, first off, it's like basically a second mortgage to go.
Yes.
These days. So that's whatever. I knew that coming in. That's not been a surprise. The level of coordination, all week I have been checking line situations for rides. All week. Where it's like, oh goddamn, Peter Pan's flight right now is fucking 63 minutes. Shit. We gotta get ready for that.
Is it just you, your wife, and your kids going?
Yes. It's the 5 of us. But we're rolling deep. We got 3 of them. And part of the problem is we got 3 very different ages. We got the 7, 5, and soon to be 3. So
who looks like he's 5.
Who's like Bam Bam. But so I am very intimidated by Disney. Okay. And I also wonder, like, we're gonna get there at, I don't know, 8 a.m. And like you stay there till 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. It's going to be 90 degrees. This is not going to end well for me. The part that I'm most scared about, the hotel room, right? So we're staying at the beach club, which is nice. This is where I stayed at the kid. Great pool, but we're staying in like a solo room, like a single room with and when my kids are done, they don't just melt gracefully into the good night, right? They don't just go to bed. There are going to be some fucking tears, and probably from me. When things are, when you get home from the park and the day is ending, I should record that because it would go viral on the pod.
Here's a pro tip. At nighttime, I know this might be like an anti-parent thing because sugar's not really the best thing to give them, but always end with a treat that they getting back to the hotel room, because I think getting back to the hotel is always the part where you lose them because they're not in the park anymore and distracted by the park things. And getting to your hotel takes a bit. And I feel like that's where meltdowns start, and then it just is just hard to bring that back and rein it back in. But like a treat once you get there, like a room service or something special to get them there might be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it does speak to the larger point about bribes being a crucial part of this trip. Bribes are going to be integral in surviving this.
Yes.
So we're doing the Magic Kingdom. We're doing Epcot. This is going to be like the other thing about this page. Like COVID has really screwed up family travel, and I've traveled some during all this, but my kids really have not.
Yes.
Like, just getting on a goddamn airplane is going to be an act of God for my family.
Especially because you're outnumbered. Is this the first time you've flown with all 3 of your kids?
I was thinking about that. I think it is. Like, so, we've got 3 in one side and then 2. To the 6th person, if you're listening to this and you're that 6th seat, I'm so sorry in advance. I am so sorry that you are going to have to endure us on your plane ride.
Do you want to know something that's going to not shock you at all? I fly Southwest pretty often because they go there's a hub here in Oakland. It goes pretty much everywhere I need to go on the West Coast.
Sure.
I will actively choose to sit by like families and kids because I love kids and I don't mind the fact that they like lose their mind every now and then. I am like that because I also don't sleep on planes either. So I'm like very much the like person that will like volunteer to sit next to kids because like I don't mind.
Wow.
But that's just like that's such a Paige thing to do because I know that's not the norm and I know it's really weird, but it's just because like I understand that kid's going to probably have a meltdown or want to talk to me 50 times and like get my attention. But I really don't mind it.
I am already loading up iPads. I love that your dog barks at the end of every episode.
He does. He makes it through every episode until the very end, and then he decides that he's going to protect me from the mailman or the UPS guy or the Amazon driver. Like, he just cannot help himself.
It's like our wrap it up. Like,
yeah, it's like hey, you guys have been going for a little while. He's been quiet for an hour, so he's like, you know what? At this point, we need to move on. But fair. But no, I hope you have a great time. I'm excited to hear about that. I will say, I'm going to need you and Caitlin to try some of the drinks, at least in Epcot too, like drinking around the world. I know like it's going to be really hot. You'll probably sweat out most of it, but drink as much as you can. That'll also help.
The Epcot drinking around the world, we've discussed this. I've got to be in line. I've got to be able to parent. But we've done this. I can handle my booze. So there's going to be some drinking around the world going on.
Yes.
For sure. So I will have stories. We will mix in draft content. We will mix in Disney content. We'll have all sorts of stuff coming back. And you're traveling as well. So safe travels to you.
Thank you. I'm headed to New York, so that should be fun.
Go Mets.
Go Mets. I'm going to a Yankees game. I'm not going to a Mets game. I've been to a Mets game.
Damn it. Yeah. Mets have the better stadium, by the way.
But it's like really far out there.
It is. The stadium, though, food offerings, craft beer selection.
It was good. I only drink beer at ballparks. So I did have a beer. I think I had like ice cream and they don't have Shake Shack. They have something there that's like pretty...
They go all out.
Indigenous to New York or something that I had. But that was a couple years ago now. It was before COVID. But now going back and going to a Yankees game. So it should be fun.
All right. Well, Godspeed in New York. Go Mets. I will report back on Disney, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Sounds good.